you begin to form connections. You begin to know people. You begin to know that gave me a lot of experience and exposure as well.
Probably redefine yourself.
It's found. I mean, I can't really say I sort of knew what I wanted, but it gave me the real life experience. And even when I ran for Family First, it wasn't necessary to win. I knew I wouldn't win because of the size of the party. I was a candidate, and also the candidate was going over in a Labour stronghold. So it was more to just get experience. And it was a full-on campaign. You do everything as if you're winning. You do you give it all, and so that set me on a platform, or even gave me the experience I needed. Coming in later into the year, I'd formed a lot of friendships, and some of the people who sort of knew me through the state elections actually helped me with the council elections. And I'd obviously learned a lot as well, so it was a bit of a journey. It didn't just happen. And even running for the council elections, I think I made the decision while I was doing the state elections that the council elections was actually now giving it a real goal, a real shot to winning. And that's why there was, I guess, a lot of information and publicity around it, because I did a bit more for the council elections, a bit more campaigning, and got out there, talked to people, did a lot of door knocking, and so that's
again, like, we are proud of you. I think when I saw it, like I said, when I saw that on Facebook, I came across it on Facebook, and I shared it, and it was impressive for me just seeing a brother,
thank you,
stepping up was very important. It's something I admire and encourage people to do. And like with that, like, what's the main experience? What did you take away from that experience, just being part of that election?
Like I said, when I did the council elections, I didn't leave any stone unturned in my campaign processes. I did, I went out, I spoke to people, whether it's in their homes, door knocked, in the shopping malls, distributed flyer, did everything. And I think with the state election, I did a little bit of that, not that much. Okay, but one of the things I wasn't very sure is how I would be received, because you walk up to someone's home, knock on their door, okay, and you're asking them to vote for you and telling them why they should vote for you, okay, and I wasn't sure if they've seen any black person knock on their door and ask for their vote, okay, so I didn't know how that was gonna go. I remember the first week I did it, or the first door I ever knocked, which I still remember till today, was in Croydon Park.
Were you received good?
I was received very well, and that guy actually, he spoke to me very politely, gave his opinions about the area, and talking about what I've learned. Now that wasn't the first door I knocked. There was 500 to more doors I knocked after that door, and my experience, it was a bit of an eye opener, because there was a lot of goodwill. I would say there was a lot of goodwill. I was actually very surprised at how positive people were to have someone knock on their door and ask them about their issues, even though I looked a little bit different than the majority of people around me. In particular, the mainstream Australians were very, very nice and very polite, and most of them would actually tell me, I'll think about it, or I'll vote for you. They'll actually tell you what they'll do after you've talked to them. They'll tell, okay, I'll think about it, I might, or they'll tell you, I'll vote for you and encourage you on. I remember one gentleman in Jeps Cross, and some of these things they stay with you. One gentleman, Philip Street in Jeps Cross. I knocked on his door, never met him before, and he was like, you know what, NK. That's after obviously I spoke to him a little bit, but before I left, he was like, you know what, NK, when you leave, I want you to remember one word. If you knock on someone's door, I want you to remember the word next. If someone doesn't receive you well, they tell you something, which is not good, remember next. There's someone next door who's happy to talk to you. There's someone next door who's happy to open their door to you, and keep going. So there are a lot of people not only who listened to what
dedicated.
There's people who didn't only listen to what I had to say, but they actually encouraged me. There's guys who put their posters on their house. I'd never met them before. There's Collins. Can't remember his last name, but he used to be a former councillor. He used to be a former councillor in the Enfield Council. We formed a really good friendship till now. But there's hundreds of them. So there's that side of when you go out, you actually get to meet. I mean, there's always that one odd person who may not talk to you nicely. I actually never had that. The worst I had is not interested. That's the worst I had. Not interested. Sorry, mate, not interested. Which is fair enough.
Yes, fair enough.
Fair enough. It's not a racial thing. It's just like there are times someone.
It's part of it.
It's sometimes someone calls me or whatever. I say no. So that's one. But also I think I learned about our community a little bit more. Our African community. I guess the diversity in the community as well, because got to go to their homes, get to know demographics, who lives in this area, who's which communities are in this area, but one of the things also I think which we as a community need to improve is actually get more engaged in those affairs and actually voting. That's one of the things I also learned most of. We have a lot of opinions, but when it comes to actually acting on those things, we don't normally do it, which is rather unfortunate. But that's got its place also when you look at the history of the composition of Africa, our community here in so. But also on a personal level, really it just grew me as a person in capacity, grew me. So it was a great experience.
I think you have something positive to take away from that. But if you were to go back at the situation and the processes, like what do you think you have to do better? Maybe one or two things.
I think one. I'll take in particular this the council elections, because I did a bit more there. I think the number one way to get more votes is to get out and talk to more people. But to more people while you're running, which I did. But mind you, I was working full time. So I was leaving work, and I had my tackings, as we'd call them back in the days, or sneakers. I leave work, go park somewhere, put on my sneakers and start walking, and start weekends as well. So it's a bit of, if maybe you have a bit more time, if you can get out and talk to more people, I think that's one thing I'll definitely do better. And next time try and do more of that, because that's the only way people will know who you are and why they should vote for you. And it's apart from that, I think most of the other things we did as much as we can, but it's also an awareness for our community. And when I talk about our community, I'm not talking about the African community, I'm talking about the community in general, of having candidates from the African community or any other getting to actually run. So with time it's not going to be something
it has happened before. And I think let us look at you are in the mix. You have done it before, you have the experience, and I'm sure you're gonna in future you're gonna do it again. So are you more leaning towards council election if you had the opportunity to go to do another one, or are you more leaning towards state election if there were a chance to do it?
At this point in time, I'm not very sure. The next elections are about 3.5 to 4 years away. So a lot can happen in that space. I think this year has been a year of just, like I said, 2014 was really busy, 2 elections. This year is more regroup and just, learn a few more things. And as time approaches close to that, I think I'll know whether I will, which way I will participate, or if I will participate, so it's gonna be a bit of a process. Myself, I'm not really sure how it's gonna work out, but definitely will be in that space.
I think you have still got time to think about that, like you said. But with this experience, you represent the society as a whole, and you have just stressed the importance to have an African person, not just from the perspective of African, but from the society, because it reflects inclusiveness. But if you were to sort of give an advice to the African person, what would be it from your experience? What would you tell them?
If they want to
engage in these sort of things,
in particular, just the political.
No, just leadership. It could be any. For young African men or women.
Yes. Okay. First of all, I think going back to just, I guess, mentioning something on your comment, it's very important. That's a personal belief of mine. It's very important we have representatives across the different cultural community, represented in Australia, and that's part of the reason I have sort of stepped out and wanted to get involved in there. I think because Australia is changing. It's not only African communities. There's other new and emerging communities, and I think even when you look at lawmakers and the policymakers, which are the parliamentarians, there has to be a level of diversity. If you're gonna be effectively manage your societies, there has to be a level of diversity in that representation to effectively deal with issues happening in the community, and I think that's important for a society. It actually works out well. That's one thing, but I also believe that young men and women should offer themselves up, for acts of service in whatever area they feel. I guess they're either talented or they feel they're called. If you're a faith person, or you feel you can contribute, I think it grows you, makes you bigger than yourself, and even things you thought you might not do. And I'll tell you in my experience, we have a young generation, which I like to refer to as the microwave generation. They want things now, instantly. Life doesn't necessarily work like that. Okay, I've had these, I guess, desires within me, and I think you just put yourself and be of service whatever comes. Okay, so started with I'm the chairperson of the Zambian community. Been doing things in the Zambian community. Started that. Started working with the African community. Started doing some stuff with White Ribbon and getting involved, and in that space you begin to meet people. Okay, so one thing leads to the other. We're talking about how did I get there, okay? Not going in detail, but I was volunteering somewhere, and what I was volunteering, the people getting the benefit would never even know who was doing it, because you're doing it in some back room, nothing dodgy, but you're just doing something to help other people who will never know about what you're doing. But in that place was another guy, prominent lawyer in Adelaide, okay? And he connected me to another parliamentarian. We're just talking casual talk. Casual talk. You're working casual talk. I'm interested in this. Oh, really? I'll go meet that guy. So it's just go about, do your life and be of service, and wherever area it could be, like what you guys are doing. Okay, you don't know who you're gonna meet, and who will give you your next step up. Okay. He might see your video or a movie you've done or something. So I think young people, including yourself, should go about doing whatever they're passionate about. For you guys, it's media and production. Keep doing that. It will connect you from this to that, and that's, for me, I think that's how it works. Just be passionate about what you do. Keep doing it, however small it is, because that's what will take you to the next thing.
And I think if I may take your last question, so you have been involved with the council election, particularly all the elections, including the state election, but with the council one, which was more interactive. So I think when most people think about that, they think about racial challenges, being someone from a color background, engaging a community that is predominantly white or another color. So what's your view on racism from your experience? Is it something that is still prevalent or major in our community, or is it something that we are probably exaggerating?
But I think racism is in Australia is still there. Unfortunately, and in even other parts of the world. But I don't like to dwell on that, and the reason being that I think there's still a lot we can do in that area of combating and educating people about diversity, because in diversity there's strength. But when you look at the number of people who are non-racist, who are very welcoming, you look at the number of white Australians who are actually very embracing, that just overwhelms me and gives confidence that eventually that will be a thing of the past. So even as much as racism is still there is pockets of racism, and in Australia it's very subtle racism as well. Most of the times people won't approach to you, won't say it in your face. Okay, it's under it's in between the grey. It's sort of grey in between and underneath certain other things. Even though it's there, the number of people who are not, like I said, is just so encouraging. And like I said, even in my own first-hand experience, going out into the community and actually talking to people, the amount of goodwill I got, it was just, you could see how a society has changed. And the other thing, when you talk of racism, you have to look at the history of the country as well. Not long ago, Australia used to be a white policy Australia. Okay, so this is the white policy Australia was in the 1900s. They way up to until the 1970s, where they favored white people from certain European countries. Africa wasn't even considered, So you look at the history of a country moving from that way of thinking, of doing things. There's still a bit of work to be done, but at the same time, so much goodwill.
So far,
in this council elections, I got, there was 509 Australians, majority Australians, because I know the number of registered Africans. Very few. Okay, there's a lot of Africans, but they don't register to vote, unfortunately, and got access to other people. So the majority of those 500, over 90%, or even close to, of those 509 people were non-Australians who voted for me. Okay, so that tells you there's a lot of goodwill out there, and even the person who got the position after, instead of me, was only 26 votes away in one, so there's a lot of shift happening, You know, it's not going to happen overnight.
You
know, societies don't change overnight. We are a new and emerging community. We've moved into a new society, a new country, and you go through stages of change, stages of acceptance, and I think we just need to continue putting ourselves and showing what we can do, you know, what we can contribute. You know, and perspectives begin to change. It's like even in the workplace, you know, most of the time people don't get employed, and specifically people of African descent, because employers are unaware of what migrants can offer, what skills they can offer. You know, but as they start to get aware of that, there's a shift. There's a shift.
I understand. And like, is there any last word for the African community, for young men, young women out there listening, who's going to view this on internet, Facebook?
Look, there's a saying that, you know, when you're talking about goals or dreams or following your passion, you know, 1% is inspiration. You know, 99% is perspiration, which is sweat and hard work. Okay, so to the young people out there, you know, be inspired. Be inspired by other people. Be inspired by people who've gone before you, because they've walked that road. They know the mistakes, but don't stay on inspiration. That's just should be your 1%. But we have most young people still, you know, who've switched that 99% inspiration and wishful thinking instead of sweat and hard work. You know, when I did the council elections, I think most of the time I was sleeping 4 to 6 hours and going to work full time, or even less sometimes. Close to the elections was practically pretty much no sleep, you know, an hour to 2. So anyway, it's not that it's not a lifestyle you prolong, because you can hurt yourself as well. But what I'm trying to say is it's hard work. You know, it's not just you say it's hard work. So but obviously you have to manage your health as well. You have to so that's to our young people. I think wider community. I think the big picture is important. As a community, the day we realize, even with all our differences in opinions or ideas, I think it's okay to have that, but let's work together, because we can get much more as a community. If we're united, there's power in unity. So and thank you for having me on your program.